wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. This is Steve, coming to you from Conway, Arkansas. And a reminder to everyone that next week is Stoicon. If you're listening to this live as it airs, Stoicon is next weekend. And all you have to do to get a ticket is make a donation of your choice. I'll put a link in the show description. I'll be leading a breakout room there. They're going to do a breakout room discussion. I'll be leading one of those rooms. I think Simon Drew's going to be doing a breakout room as well. So come join us. It'd be awesome to see you there. And then coming up right after that, I think the following week is Stoic Week. And Stoic Week is free. You can have a Live Like a Stoic for a Week challenge. And they'll have online chats and videos and a little PDF booklet of practices, so you can try to really jumpstart your Stoic practices if you want to do that. And I will probably be participating in that as well, so I'd love to see you there. I'll put some links to these things in the show description. This week we're going to hear from reading number 6 from book 5 of the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. And this week's reading, he's trying to convince himself that to be a good participant, a generous participant in society, that if you're really good at it, like you become the best human you can be, it'll just be natural for you to be generous and to be good, and you won't even notice you're doing it. You'll be like a plant that produces fruit. It doesn't ask for thanks. It just does good. And that's what he thinks a really good person would be like. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 5, number 6.
Some men, when they do you a kindness, at once demand the payment of gratitude from you. Others are more modest than this. However, they remember the favor and look upon you in a manner as their debtor. A third sort shall scarce know what they have done. These are much like a vine, which is satisfied by being fruitful in its kind, and bears a bunch of grapes without expecting any thanks for it. A fleet horse or greyhound does not make a noise when they have done well, nor a bee when she has made a little honey. And thus a man that has done a kindness never proclaims it, but does another as soon as he can, just like a vine that bears again the next season. Now we should imitate those who are so obliging, as hardly to reflect on their beneficence. But you will say, a man ought not act without reflection. It is surely natural for one that is generous to be conscious of his generosity. Yes, truly, and to desire the person obliged should be sensible of it too. What you say is in a great measure true, but if you mistake my meaning, you will become one of those untoward benefactors I first mentioned. Indeed, they too are misled by the plausibility of their reasoning. But if you will view the matter in its true colors, never fear that you will neglect any social act.
Number 7.
A prayer of the Athenians. Send down, oh, send down rain, dear Zeus, on the plowed fields and plains of the Athenians. Of a truth, we should not pray at all, or else in this simple and noble fashion.
So in this reading, Marcus is complaining about people that do you a favor and then feel like you're in their debt. Well, you owe me one, buddy. You owe me something. You know, that's not how we should be, he says. We should be more like a grapevine that produces and gives freely, doesn't know who took its grapes, doesn't know what good it's done, doesn't really pay attention. It just does good And that's part of its job on this planet, is to provide. Our duty as a part of society is to provide, he says. A horse that runs well, a dog that runs well doesn't demand you to, put it on a pedestal afterwards. It just knows it did a good job, and that is its reward. And so if we can become more like that, to just do good without expecting a return, that's the best way that we can behave. I think it's interesting that he often compares things to grapes and to harvest, like our life is like, a harvest. When a tree's fruit drops, it doesn't complain that it's died. It's just part of life. And I think some of these ideas come from his participation in the Eleusinian mysteries, which I don't know much about, and I probably even pronounced it wrong. But this cult of Demeter that he was involved in, that kind of worshiped the goddess of the harvest and made a lot of references to the harvest. He was involved in that community. And you can find out more about that online. I think Donald Robertson's written about it and things. It's kind of interesting to read about. Maybe we should resurrect the cult of Demeter. But he makes a lot of tie-ins to harvest and production of bees or of plants, and relates that to our goodness that we should bring forth in the world. The second reading is just an example of a prayer. He says we shouldn't pray at all. And I did an episode a long time ago on how to pray like a Stoic. A lot of times it's basically help me to not desire things, or help me to have good self-control, basically, not to pray for things outside of your power. But here he gives an example of please let it rain, thank you, bye. He said pray simply, or even better, not at all. Assume the gods know what they're doing. Keep it simple. So kind of an interesting reading there that you can take what you wish from it. But we should speak simply, whether we're talking to a deity or to our neighbor. We should keep things simple, keep things truthful, and try to speak laconically in a simple, straightforward fashion without being too demanding. We're not asking the universe for much, but we are trying to provide much. As a grapevine produces grapes for the world, we're doing good in the world. But at the same time, when we do good in the world, we shouldn't be going, oh, and you owe me one, and you owe me one, and you owe me one. We need to keep that in mind. We're not accountants of the good we've done and who owes us what. We are just like a good bearing plant that provides, not that you should be taken advantage of, but that your job in life is to use reason to do good. So I think that's something to think about in this week as we move forward. What good have we done this day? On another note, my last kind of midweek episode, I talked about keeping track of judgments and thinking about what kind of judgments you're adding to things. And I've been trying to catch I'm not great at it, so I'm not going to report much on that today. But I am trying to ask myself, what did I add judgments to today that kind of filtered my view of reality? What stories am I telling myself? That's really what I'm trying to catch. What stories am I telling about things that happen? I will say that there were some things that happened this week that I did do a pretty good job of just framing in it's out of my power. Something that I could have been very, very shook up by or embarrassed about, but I think I handled it pretty well. I felt like I handled it like water off a duck's back, as they say. So I told myself an alternate story than one I might have told myself a couple years ago. Oh, this is bad. Instead it was, oh, well, I can't control that. I'll just react to it the best I can and move on. And I can't go into more detail than that, I'm afraid. But it I felt like I did a pretty good job of that. So catching the stories you tell yourself is a really good skill. What am I saying about this person who cut me off in traffic? What story am I saying? What story am I telling myself about being stuck in line at the store? What story am I telling myself about this colleague of mine who's not being very friendly to me right now? Because my story is what I react to emotionally. And you can almost be your own. This is, you don't want to lie to yourself, but you can almost be your own propaganda minister, as it were. Like, I could spin this and make myself mad, or I could at least spin it to myself in such a way as where I don't care. Whatever, buddy. Whatever, buddy. That's nice. Moving on with my own life. Got my own problems. I'll see you later. So, what stories, how are you framing what is occurring? Are you framing things in such a way that you're reacting unreasonably in an unstoic fashion? Or are you either, the best thing you might do is refrain from framing it at all, saying, I don't have a story to tell myself about this. I reserve judgment. Or you might tell yourself, well, probably that person's in the right. Maybe they should be driving that way. I don't know what's going on in that car. I'll let it go. Don't worry about them cutting you off. So just trying to think about that, just even if it's not to correct anything, but just to see what stories you tell yourself, I think is very powerful. All right, so I hope everyone out there has a good week. You catch the stories you're telling yourself, and you bear good fruit in the world. And I will see you next week. Remember, StoicCon's coming up. I hope to see you there. And Stoic Week right after that. So check it out. And until then, seize the day. Carpe diem.